Should Texas A&M be considering a quarterback change after Conner Weigman's play against Notre Dame?
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy fixes tired fast with zero sugar and a convenient portable size. It's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. Go to 5hourenergy.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. So, ladies and gentlemen, put up a post-game thoughts episode yesterday, breaking down the game, what I thought about it, what occurred, my opinions. And the most significant conversation I saw among Texas A&M fans was, should we consider putting Marcel Reed or Jalen Henderson in and benching Conner Weigman? That's going to be the conversation we're going to have right now. I'm going to give both sides of the argument because this was really split down the middle. Texas A&M fans, I saw a lot of people saying yes, a lot of people saying no, and it was really split down the middle. So I wanted to have this conversation today and share my thoughts. So first of all, to get straight to the point, I think Texas A&M should stick with Conner Weigman, but I do believe his leash has shortened up a little bit. Here's the deal. I saw this stat, and obviously there was a game last night between USC and LSU. Brian Kelly continues to struggle in the season openers, but Conner Weigman was like the worst graded quarterback on PFF I've ever seen ever. I think his grade was a 26, and his passing grade, his overall grade was like a 28 or something, and his passing grade was a 26. I don't, in all honesty, I really don't think I've ever seen a grade lower than like a 50 or a 60. I've never seen that. Like, that is how bad Conner Weigman played. There's no debate to it. Conner knows that. Conner knows he didn't play well. And I'm not trying to pile on. I mean, I'm not trying to pile on here, but the reality is, to be a successful football team, you have to have good quarterback play. And in this loss, the Aggies did not have good quarterback play. And yes, Notre Dame has an elite defense. They do. But you still got to show up in big games like that. With that crowd was incredible. Shout out to everybody that was there. That atmosphere was incredible. But the Aggies aren't able to get it done, and in a lot of this falls, and this is just the reality. Now, we're going to talk about player grades, position grades, not like PFF grades, but like my thoughts on what each position group should have gotten if they needed a grade. And, the receivers didn't help out Conner Weigman a lot. Like, I don't think he got a lot of help. But I also think that, once again, I mean, not rocket science, he did not play well. So back to the point of, does Texas A&M need to think about a quarterback change? I still say no, but my opinion has changed a significant amount on this. Y'all know. I mean, here's the deal. I was the CEO of the off-season Conner Weigman hype train, and this one looks a little rough. He played awful. And I can own that. Obviously, I mean, I can't sit here and act like he was, we all watched that game. But, I'm kind of, this is the same guy that we saw play so well last year. And yes, it was against smaller teams or not as good opponents, but you also saw him have a massive game against Miami. And the point is, I know there's a good quarterback in there. We've seen it. We've seen it before. That was not the Conner Weigman we know on Saturday. Now, I still think you ride with Conner Weigman. I feel like now, I think you give him this game against McNeese. I feel like you give him Florida. If he is good against McNeese and then is really, 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 really bad against Florida, and you lose and you start the year 1-2, okay, it is now time for a very, 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 very serious conversation about this. I don't think this conversation is super serious right now, but I think it could be if Conner Weigman does not play well against Florida. I think the flip side of this argument would be something we talked about all offseason, and that is you do have elite quarterbacks on the bench in Marcel Reed and Jalen Henderson. And both of those guys can be thrown into this game or into the game and really succeed. I've talked about, I think a lot of those guys could start at other SEC schools. They're so talented. And it's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have solid backup quarterbacks. Now, I also do think that solid backup quarterbacks at times leads to fans quickly going, oh, hold on, wait a minute. Should we go with the backup? Our starter didn't play well, after one bad game. But I mean, this was no one bad game. This was a horrible, horrible game at the quarterback position for the Aggies. So I still think that you don't. I don't think that you don't pull Conner Weigman yet, is my opinion. And I know this is me split down the middle opinion. A lot of people want to see Reed or Henderson, whichever one you prefer, those two. And then a lot of people are like, let's stick with Weigman. We know who's inside him. Let's see if he can figure it out. I think that this game this week against McNeese will be a huge confidence booster for Conner Weigman. I'm hoping it'll be an opportunity for him to have a good game, to put up some solid numbers, and remember who he is as a quarterback. Because once again, we have seen Conner Weigman play well. We have seen him have good games against solid opponents. We have. He played well against LSU 2 years ago. He played well against Miami last year. He's played well in big games. He did not play well in this game. And it's frustrating. I don't think he got a ton of help from his receivers. There was not a lot of separation. I watched the game, back again for a second time. And I mean, I knew the separation wasn't great, but I mean, there was not much. And you got to give Notre Dame and this defense a ton of credit. I mean, I know that Notre Dame, fans and players will say they heading into the game, they weren't one bit fazed by the thought of the environment. But I'm just telling you, even though, and they're allowed to, they're allowed to say that, like, that's fair, because I get that what they're saying. But my point is, it's impressive that they were able to walk in that environment and play the way they did. That defense is elite. They say defense travels. That proves it. Someone commented and said that Texas A&M is going to play 3 defenses better than Notre Dame. I would love to know who you're referring to. I don't see that being the case. My point being here of bringing that up is I think this Notre Dame defense is elite. I don't think Texas A&M is going to play a lot of defenses quite like this defense. So, I feel like, hey, it can only get better from here knowing that. But receiver is going to be a conversation for another day. We'll talk about that a little deeper tomorrow. But quarterback, I mean, I want y'all to let me know this in the YouTube comments. I do believe it's a little quick. It'd be a little quick to the gun if you pulled Conner Weigman right now. I think that you give him, you know what I mean? Everybody plays a bad game. It's when you stack bad games. If he plays if he plays okay against McNeese and then plays terrible against Florida, then it might be time for Marcel Reed or Jalen Henderson. That's when that conversation seriously needs to happen. But I think right now you've built this offense around Conner Weigman. I think he's a player who has the upside there. He played bad. Good players can play bad games. This stuff happens. Hate seeing at the moment was a little bit too big for Conner Weigman. But once again, good players can play bad games. And I think that's what happened in this game. So I'm really anxious to see how he bounces back. how he bounces back against McNeese, and then even more importantly, how he bounces back against, obviously Florida got stomped by Miami, but how they bounce back against a better team than McNeese in Florida. So we'll see. Conner Weigman did not play well. Let me know in the YouTube comments. Are y'all on the side of we need a new quarterback in there, or are y'all on the side of let's stick with Conner Weigman? We know who he is. He's going to get it figured out. Let me know that in the YouTube comments. We are going to grade positions. We'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. For me, I'm always tired after lunch. If you're like that, if you're like me, you're not alone. More than 70% of us hit the wall after lunch. Let a 5 Hour Energy shot help you over the wall instead of crashing into it. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5 Hour Energy website has flavors galore like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and more. There's a flavor for everyone. Try them all. On the site, you can even have the option to build your own 12 or 24 pack. You choose the flavors and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5 Hour Energy product today, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. So I've got an article here from the Austin American-Statesman breaking down position grades, and I'm going to give the grade they put and just kind of give my opinion. I think it was just a good base to kind of break it down. And, starting with quarterback, obviously Conner Weigman got a D. We're not going to dive deep into that. We just got done talking about Conner Weigman. Running backs, they give him a B-. The running backs, to me, the yards per carry was not great by any means. It was not great. But I still saw signs and flashes from this running back room to where I'm a little confident in the future. The rest of the season, I'm confident. And once again, this is a stingy Notre Dame defense. I'm confident in this rushing attack to figure it out. I'm confident that they're going to be okay. I was actually very happy to see what Daniels and EJ Smith did, knowing, hey, they had a few little burst runs. I think they looked solid, where I feel once again better about the depth of this room after losing Ruben Owens. So I think a B- is a fair grade for the running back room. I think that's a very fair grade. Receivers get a D+, and once again, after rewatching the game, I fully agree with this. It says, while Weigman wasn't able to get into a rhythm for most of the night, he doesn't deserve all the blame. None of the receivers were able to separate against a stingy Irish secondary. Ja'Day Walker was the most effective with 6 catches for 31 yards, but even had a careless mistake drawing a false start on 3rd and 1 play. So, yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree that the receivers were not running open. The receivers they were not creating a lot of separation. And at the end of the day, separation is what matters. And when you aren't getting any separation, you're forcing your quarterback to have to throw in some tight windows, and that leads to turnovers. Not saying that led to the interceptions from Weigman in this game. Both of those throws one was overthrown to a guy who was hoping, and one was underthrown to now that was a more what are we doing here throw, but just bad throws, and but still, receivers being open makes things easier on the quarterback. Offensive line gets a C+. A&M's offensive line deserves credit for only allowing 1 sack against a fearsome Notre Dame pass rush. Where they fell short was the run game. The line was not able to create holes for the running backs, severely hampering the Aggies' ability to gain easy yardage. They did their job for the most part, though. They lose half a grade because of how much the backs helped in the pass protection. That's fair. I'll tell you this. I was fine with the offensive line play. I agree that there was still you could have done better when it came to creating holes for the running backs, but you can win football games with your offensive line playing the way it did. And at the end of the day, heading into this season, that's what we asked for. That was the concern. Can this offensive line play good enough for you to win some football games? That was the question mark. That was the concern. And to this point, in this game, they did that. They played well enough to win a football game. So I was very happy with that. Then we go to defensive line, B minus. Defensive line, the first half was an A. Second half, holding the Irish to 65 yards. Followed up with a C minus in the second half as Notre Dame rushed for 133 yards and 2 touchdowns. Nick Scorton had a few great plays. Smart Turner had a solid 7 tackles, 5 half tackle for loss. Agree with all that. I think the defensive line was fine. And it was funny. I was talking to my dad about this. I think that the quarterback play, in all honesty, the play of the offense just made it a little bit harder on the defense. That's just the reality. Sometimes when you're not really getting a lot going and your defense is out there a lot, they're tired, it's just harder to succeed. And eventually, a team will wear you down. And I think that's what happened a little bit in this game. You definitely saw the flashes of how good this defensive line is and this defensive line can be. But the offense needs to sustain some drive, stay out there, and help this defense, be able to stay off the field a little bit and rest up and be good to go for late game situations. Linebackers are a C. It says Terry York took responsibility for the defensive collapse after the game, saying that he missed a tackle on the biggest play of the game. The touchdown run for Price. I'll tell you this. I talk about the leadership of Terry York for being a young player a lot. Going and saying that is the collapse fully on Terry York? No, it's not. Obviously, we all know that it's a team sport, but you love a leader and a captain who's able to go up there and say, "Hey, this was on me. That was my fault." And you really like seeing that in a player like York. So I love that. But I agree. I agree with the grade there. Secondary gets C+. A&M secondary held up well against Leonard, who wasn't able to hit any big pass plays downfield. Tariq Chappelle, Des Ricks, Will Lee, and Marcus Ruckliff all combined for 3 tackles for loss. However, they played a little too soft on Notre Dame and was committed to short passing. That lose a half letter because of Dalton Brooks targeting. I agree with everything there. Coaching gets a C minus. It says, in Mike Elko's first game coaching the Aggies, he wasn't terrible. He didn't make any egregious coaching mistakes, and he managed the clock well enough. For as bad as some of the team did play, it's hard to tie a lot of what happened directly to Elko and his influence. As the season unfolds, so will more about Elko's influence. So all these grades I agree with. It's just frustrating to me. This was a football game that you were there late in the game. You just, a couple late plays, you're able to let Notre Dame run away with the victory. This one hurts because if you get anything from your offense, I think you can win this game. Your defense was really, really good. Aside from a few plays, that long touchdown where a lot of guys took bad angles and you missed a lot of tackles. Texas A&M's defense did miss a lot of tackles. I forget the exact number. I don't have it in front of me, but it was substantial. You have got to wrap up. You have got to tackle. If you don't, it's going to lead to losses. You have got to wrap up. So that's definitely a little bit frustrating, but that's kind of just part of it. It's going to happen. You're going to have some games where you just aren't able to tackle as well. I believe this team's going to be fine when it comes to tackling. That was an issue a little bit last year as well. I'm not super concerned about it in the future, but it's definitely something to monitor. You want to see the tackling get better. But this was definitely, and we'll probably talk about this game a little bit more tomorrow and then move on. This was a really frustrating football game because once again, Notre Dame's a better football team, but it just feels like if you get a little bit better play from your receivers, from your quarterback, that I think you can win this game. You make a tackle on that long touchdown, maybe you win this game. I just think that a few things going the Aggies' way and better quarterback play, you can win this football game, which is why it's so frustrating. But it's a loss. At the end of the day, it's already a loss in the book, and you've got to find a way to regroup, and you got to find a way to get better play from your quarterback, Conner Weigman. We're going to talk about why the season is not over, but You have got to play better, and has the ceiling dropped a little bit because of this loss? We'll talk about all that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Ultimate College Football HC. Hey, Locked On Aggies fans, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you are going to love as much as I do, Ultimate College Football HC. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of the Aggies? From recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? And what I really love about this game is that you're responsible for calling offensive plays during the games. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but will shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free and has no ads and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want and when you want to. And of course, we have a special for Locked On Aggies fans. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, visit ultimate-cfb.com or look it up in the App Store. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. So you're now 0-1. That's the reality here. You're 0-1. You've lost your first game of the season. And the question is, where do we go from here? You know, I wasn't confident in this game, but I thought the Aggies could win. I thought they were going to win a tight game. And, you know, we talked about the schedule. We've talked about this all offseason. The 4 most challenging games of the season, all being at home, helps you have a chance to win potentially 9 games. My confidence in 9 wins, especially obviously now that you already have a loss on the schedule, but my confidence has decreased significantly. I think 8-4 now feels like a really, really solid number for this team. You could literally lose all 3 of those games at home. I still believe Texas A&M will win one of these challenging games at home. I think LSU looked good, but not great. And it's not true. I was impressed with LSU. I don't want to sit here and bash LSU. I thought Nussmeier looked really good. I think that they should have pushed the ball downfield a little bit more. That was a little frustrating, and that's beside the point. But the point is, I think you can beat LSU at home. I do, yes. I think that you can potentially beat Missouri at home. And if you're able to, Texas then becomes another conversation. But if you're able to pick up one of those games at home, you can drop one to Florida, drop one to Auburn, one of those, a little bit more challenging road games. I still am a little concerned about Florida, even though I know they just got steamrolled by Miami. So maybe Florida's just not good. I don't know. We're going to have to see. We'll find out soon. But, I think 8-4 now feels like the number. And yeah, I do think now Conner Weigman has to play well. Conner Weigman has got to figure it out. Because here's the deal. I think if Conner Weigman plays like he did last night, or like he did on Friday, my goodness, if he plays like he did on Saturday night, this football team is going to be lucky to go 7-5. And by now, I think that if he plays like he did on Saturday night, you're going to see a new quarterback relatively quickly, as we talked about in segment 1. But you've got to get better quarterback play. But I mean, the point of this conversation is the season's not over. The season is not over. This is year 1 of the Elko era. You have a solid roster still. Notre Dame is a really good football team. I think that they are going to be a playoff team, and you were in it. You just couldn't get it done, and you played offensive. I'm not saying Notre Dame played the perfect game because they didn't either. I don't want to say that, well, they were perfect, we were bad. But Conner Weigman played about as awful as you can play, and you were still in this football game start to finish until the real tail end. So if you get better quarterback play, you can win some football games. That's what we have to remember. The season is not over. I know this is a frustrating loss, but the season is not over. There's still upside on this football team to make a solid bowl game and do something impressive this year in the year 1 of Coach Elko. So That's my thoughts here. Once again, let me know in the YouTube comments thoughts on the quarterback position. Is it time to consider maybe leaning toward making a move? Do we stick with Conner Weigman? How do we feel? Let me know that in YouTube comments. Hope everyone has a great rest of their day today, and we'll see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.